Who doesn't love spaghetti and meatballs? I found a recipe on allrecipes.com that has great reviews from thousands of people. The person who uploaded it, his name was Jeremy. Sounds delicious, the picture looks good. Let's make some Italian meatballs with spaghetti sauce. In a large bowl, put 1 pound of lean ground beef. Make sure you get out as much of it as you can. Then you need 1 cup of fresh breadcrumbs. You need 1 tablespoon of grated Parmesan. You need 1 tablespoon of fresh parsley flakes. You need 1/4 teaspoon of ground black pepper. And 1/8 teaspoon of garlic powder. Then you need to mix in 1 egg that you beat well. So crack an egg, whisk it until it's mixed, and then pour that in. Now we need to mix these well with our hands. If you have kids or anyone that wants to help out, this is always a good spot for them. We're going to form this into 12 meatballs. So you can see it's starting to break together nicely. It's absorbed most of the breadcrumbs. Okay, so I broke it into 2 equal halves. Now I'm breaking those into equal halves. Now I've got pretty much 4 equal pieces. So each of these I'm going to break into 3 meatballs. Roll them in your hand. Make sure they stick together nicely. Put them on a plate you have on the side. Once you have all 12 meatballs plated up, lightly cover them. Okay. And put them into your fridge until you're making your sauce. For the sauce, you're going to need 3/4 cup of chopped onion. So I'm just going to chop up a whole small onion. One small onion probably will be close to 3/4 cup. Now let's do the same for the other half. You need 5 cloves of minced garlic. Put your garlic down, flat side of the blade against it. Smash it to get the skin off. Cut off the parts you don't want. And then using the back of the blade, go up and down, cutting quickly. And you'll cut little tiny pieces this way. Garlic is so sticky though, so every once in a while just make sure you're pushing it around and getting it off of your blade. Okay, so do that for 5 pieces of garlic. 5 cloves of minced garlic. Now put a large saucepan over medium heat and pour in 1/4 cup of olive oil. And let that warm up. Once your oil has reached medium heat, add in your onions and garlic. And stir until your onion becomes translucent. Alright, it's been about 5 minutes and the onions are becoming translucent. The smaller pieces are pretty see-through, the bigger pieces they're getting there, they're pretty close, most of them. At this point, you need to add in 2 cans of whole peeled tomatoes. the big cans. Each can is 28 ounces. That's 1 pound and 12 ounces. So whole peeled tomatoes, 2 cans of them. 28 ounce cans. Oops. Okay, so stir that in. At this point, if you have a bay leaf, add it. The grocery was out, so I couldn't get one, but it will help the flavor. You also need 2 teaspoons of salt. So there's 1. There's 2. And 1 teaspoon of sugar. Now stir that around, make sure those get in there equally. Now we're going to need to get this to a simmer. So in order to get it to a simmer, you first have to get it to a low boil and then turn the heat down to low. So maybe raise your temperature to a medium high and keep an eye on this for it to start bubbling. At this point, it is at a low boil. So turn the heat down to low. Turn your heat to low and put a lid on it. And let it simmer for 90 minutes. Now I'm going to make my pasta from scratch. And this is a very simple recipe. I got it from someone named Pat on All Recipes. And it got great reviews. You need 2 cups of flour. And a teaspoon of salt. Now mix those together. Make a little well in the center. And pour in 2 beaten eggs. Then stir those together until a dough begins to form. If it's too dry, you can add a few tablespoons of water. So dryness is going to vary based on your climate, but it might be fine. You might not need any water. Now take a working surface, spread some flour on it. And flip your dough out onto it. I also like to put a little shortening on my hand when kneading. Just because it helps me some so it doesn't stick to my hands. And you're just going to knead this for 3 to 4 minutes. Really make sure it stays floured on your surface. A good test you can always do for dough, at least bread doughs anyway, is make a triangle and see if it keeps its shape. This is a really great dough. So let's roll this out and cut it into strips for our spaghetti. Get a lightly dusted board or something you're comfortable rolling out your dough on and making cuts on. And then roll out your dough as thick or as thin as you would like it. And because I'm going for spaghetti, I want it pretty thin. I would say that is now to the desired consistency that I want. Then, very carefully, you're going to have to start cutting it. Pizza cutters work really well. And I'm going to go relatively thin with mine. Maybe not spaghetti thinness, but kind of like egg noodle thin. Little thicker than spaghetti, but still good. Now that you have your noodles cut, cook them just like any other type of noodle. Once your spaghetti sauce has been simmering for 90 minutes, it's time to add in our other ingredients. You need a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. And that's usually how they come, so it's convenient. You need 3/4 teaspoon of dried basil. So there's half a teaspoon. There's 1/4, so 3/4 teaspoon of dried basil. Half a teaspoon of ground black pepper. Make sure you stir all that in. The heat should melt your tomato paste pretty well. And the final ingredient, of course it wouldn't be spaghetti sauce without meatballs. So get your 12 meatballs, put them in. This smells amazing. And again, we want to simmer this. So I'm going to bring the heat up a little bit just to get a low boil going and then reduce it to low. All right, again, I got this to a low boil. Stir it around. Make sure everything gets mixed well. Lower the heat to low and then simmer it for 30 minutes. So get a large pot of water over high heat and add a generous amount of salt. Once your pot of water is to a boil, add in your noodles and cook until al dente, 8 to 10 minutes, just like with regular pasta. Once your noodles have cooked till they're al dente, about 8 to 10 minutes, pour them out. Get your egg noodles, then get your sauce. This has been simmering for 30 minutes now. Smells amazing. And then just spoon it out. Make sure you get a chunk of tomato as well. And a couple meatballs. Sprinkle some grated Parmesan on it. Some pepper to your liking. And then really, if you're going for style, just put some basil on it too. Looks amazing. Let's try some. All right, I got a little piece of my noodle and a little bit of my meatball. Make sure they're cool, of course. All right, let's try it. That is so good. I've made egg noodles before. It's always kind of difficult to cut them thin, but they taste like really fresh noodles. The meatball, nice and tender. It's got all this great Italian seasoning. The sauce is very tomatoey and warm. Delicious meal. Feed your friends and family. Super easy. You can do it. If you like this video, please subscribe. Enjoy.